In the last lecture, I gave you a short introduction to the IPAT equation, and it emerged that affluence or consumption and the way technology is used have a greater impact on the earth than population alone. In this lecture, I would like to tell you a bit more about what I mean by it depends on the way technology is used, and show you the different effects that technology has on fairness, fragility, and finitude. I have already given you a short introduction to what I mean by technology. Technology does not mean just supercomputers or smartphones. Even piped water is technology. In a planet with finite resources, some aspects of technology intensity actually create efficiencies that are desirable. All of you will agree with me that the Fiat and the Ambassador cars of the 1970s and 80s were far less efficient in their consumption of petrol or diesel than, let's say, a Santro or Swift of today. Similarly, a CFL bulb consumes a fraction of the power that is consumed by a normal incandescent bulb. So you can see in the graphic the differences in the power consumption between these two kinds of lighting. So there are definitely advantages in using better, more efficient technology. However, the sunny side of technology is offset by the dark side as well. CFL bulbs contain trace amounts of mercury, which is a toxic chemical. At the end of its life, it is very important to dispose of a CFL bulb by handing it to a recycling and disposal center where the mercury is isolated and kept away from human beings. But think, how many of us have thrown CFL bulbs in the garbage? If CFL bulbs enter a landfill, which is where most of our garbage goes, then toxic mercury will contaminate soil and water, thereby posing risks not only to human beings, but also to biodiversity that is resident in soil or water. Let me give you another example of technology intensity and its effects on finitude and fragility. All of us probably own a mobile phone. If you were to ask your parents about the first mobile phone that they owned, they will tell you probably that it was a basic device capable of making calls and sending and receiving text messages. That's it. The phone that you own today probably can be used to play the radio, browse the internet, play movies, take photographs, and so on. This is a real jump in technology intensity. But the other side of this coin is that many people want to regularly replace their very functional mobile phones with something better and better. Even a casual reading of how mobile phones are produced will tell you that it requires the mining of rare minerals for the microchips in the phone, the use of precious lithium for the battery, which causes severe environmental impact, and the production of plastic-based casing that is a very polluting industry. This is all at the production stage. You can well imagine how fragility and finitude would be impacted by us replacing our old phone with a new phone every year, let's say, just because technology has moved ahead, rather than 5 or 6 years waiting till our phone loses its functionality. There are strong implications for increased production and consumption of commodities for sustainability on a fragile and finite planet. Globalized production means that environmental bads or the negative impacts of production and consumption on the environment are transported to lower income countries more than rich countries. The e-waste or electronic waste industry, for example, relies on the informal processing of broken electronic equipment or discarded electronic equipment, usually by people who live in a developing country. People retrieve metals like copper and gold from electronic equipment using very crude methods, and it is a very dangerous activity in terms of environmental pollution and human health impacts. Increased consumption has implications for fairness as well. Most companies assume no responsibility for products once they sell it to a consumer. Similarly, most consumers assume no responsibility for products that they have purchased and used before throwing it in the trash. In addition to causing environmental damage in countries which process such waste, there are strong issues of fairness to contend with as well. For example, is it fair that the social price, seen here as the health hazards caused by the processing in the e-waste industry, of increased consumption of electronic goods in America is borne by the people in Ghana? There is one more side to how technology intensity is related to fairness. Here's an example. The internet is being used more and more for our daily transactions, like purchasing things online, doing bank transactions, buying train tickets, and so on. But how are people who do not have access to such technology access these important services? If the prerequisite for participating in an internet-enabled society was a smartphone, tablet, or laptop computer, more than 80% of the population of our country, for all practical purposes, would not be able to participate and would therefore be excluded. This is very undesirable from a social sustainability viewpoint, as you will agree. So to sum up this lecture, I hope I have convinced you that affluence and technology have a larger role to play in determining human impact on the planet than population. In my final lecture, I will summarize this entire module on population and sustainability for you.